Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I'm on ChessCube, gonna kibitz a 5-minute game. Okay, here we go. We have 2,000 plus players, 2050 for white and 2120 2120 for black. What is going on? Okay, this rook is being hit. It looks like white is losing a piece. Ouch. The knight on c5 is done. What else is there? The rook has to leave. Is there any in-between move? Is there a stronger threat that could be made? I'm not seeing it. I guess this knight is just going to fall. White's probably going to resign here. Because this knight isn't just falling, it's falling with check. So that's the added feature of this position. So you could actually kind of program your own internal dialogue to recognize threats as being that much more strong. If you're going to be winning a piece with check, it's unlikely going to be the case that there's some in-between type of move that's going to save white in this position. So taking that knight with check seems to do the trick. I guess maybe rook takes knight if there's any hope, just trying to get something instead of just losing a piece for nothing. But what else is there? Rook takes knight. Okay, there it is. And then I guess now you have to react with knight to d3. Maybe, actually, hang on a second. Hang on a second. Knight d3, this pawn on the e file is going to be gone, and now okay, g6 is lost. Ouch. Okay, and now so there's this one of those rook up and over moves, right? Rook e3 to g3, but the queen is threatened. You avoid queen exchange in this instance. So what do we have? 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 pawns for white, 4 for black. A more vulnerable black king. Still this tricky knight on the d3 square, or just the knight is present on the board, so always a tricky piece. We do have a serious time disadvantage, though. Less than 20 seconds. I guess it's more going to be a time issue than anything. And black has just to make moves, essentially. Okay, so the knight goes to g4. There's possibilities for knight h6 checks, knight g4 to h6, but that's easily met with just, I guess, king h7, so not really a big threat. Queen takes on e4. A very real possibility, and this is going to be game over. The queen really well placed on g6, negating any possible attack against the black king. So initially I was thinking it was going to be just a one piece, but certainly white made some progress. They got something for the loss of material. That's generally speaking what you're going to want to do in your own games. Just get something. Don't just give away a pawn for nothing. If you could get compensation in the form of maybe giving up a rook and getting a minor piece and a pawn in exchange, that's certainly going to be preferred instead of just losing a pawn for nothing. But we have now just white losing on time. Hopefully they play one more game. We could see something from the start. Here we go. So 21-33 playing on the white side, 20-50 for black. Modern defense. g6, this could transpose into many different things. So white establishing a center. Black is going to look to strike at it now. d6 is prepping either c5 or e5. Really have to undermine this white setup at some point. Can't just let these two pawns sit there. And I think this is a mouse slip, actually, this a5 move. I think a6 was the move to expand with b5. I think this was a mouse slip, a6, or excuse me, a5. I think a6 was meant to support a b5, b4 expansion. Or maybe not. Maybe, okay, this is a decent structure to work with. Black is just looking to expand on the queen side. Certainly something to watch out for when you have this c6 move is placing the light square bishop on c4. That could always run into b5 with tempo. And if you bring your bishop back, a4 could even turn out to trap it. Your minor piece is getting kicked around. So these guys are firing off a lot of moves. What is black going to do with this knight? Developing it to f6 always will run into possibilities for just pressing forward in the center with e5, this knight getting kicked back. And now knight f6. Okay, so if e5, the knight can now pivot on g4. e4 is now hit. Knight g3 looks to be the correct way to react to that that pressure that's being placed on e4. Although no, I was thinking the bishop on b7 was putting pressure on e4, so that is not yet a target. Might we see bishop h6? Okay, there it is. It's almost like I was waiting for that move to be played and then say, yeah, bishop h6, that was the way to go. But so yeah, now the king can't castle. Dark square weaknesses are present since black no longer has that dark square bishop, the most valuable piece minor piece on the black end has now been removed. And this queen, how to dislodge that queen? Certainly you could do it with knight g4, but then again that knight is unprotected. And now c5, striking at the center, hitting at e4, a very aggressive move. If black is not allowed to castle, if the position opens up, black can certainly find themselves in serious trouble. This knight is not only hitting the queen but looking to pivot on that e5 square. But now there will not be any castling for black. White just picking off some pawns now, and actually bishop to b5 is a strong move, forcing knight back to d7. And wow, counterattacking move. Okay, this is going to be game over. We have an open c file and a black king that needed to really have the queen side closed, because certainly there's no king side castling here. The king is kind of stuck in the middle of the board. If there was any safe haven, it would have come in the form of the queen side, but seems like that's going to be ruled out. White looking to just double on the c file. What is this knight going to do? How to get this white knight involved? That's probably the poorest placed piece right now. How to get it very active? Where are there weak points in the position? So check. I guess black could actually go ahead with no. Castling would drop the f7 pawn. So a serious problem right here is for black is what to exactly do with the king. I guess maybe just keep the king exactly where it is, and that doesn't seem to be too good of a choice long term. But what better is there? I guess the queen now. Okay, so some success has been made as a result of that pawn push. The queen and rook are now defending f7, but white is just piling up on that. Might we see knight g1, h3, g5, hitting both queen and f7 for an additional well, basically the last piece involved is to get that knight doing something. That is the poorest placed piece. This is an interesting move. There are a lot of pieces on this light square diagonal. d3 is now a sensitive point. If we do have knight g1, might we have just rook d8, and then white is going to be having to do something against that d3 pawn. Is that something that could be ignored? However, knight g1 and then rook d8, knight h3, just threatening knight g5. It's coming there with tempo, hitting the queen and f7. So what is it that white should be doing here? Okay, so I guess this is some queen g7. I'm not quite sure what sort of improvement has been made by having the queen on g7 opposed to h7. It seemed like just knight b1, h3, g5 is the way to go. Unfortunately, there's not even some advance. Well, this is ruled out. Okay, this move does one thing, flight square for the king, but where is this knight? What is it doing? It's not even contributing to the position. Eventually, we're going to see the black rook finally showing itself along a file, coming to that d7 square. We got a 20-second advantage for black. What is black thinking about besides just rook to d7? You might as well get it functioning in both directions, right? Along a file, not only a rank, it's doing a good job in watching over f7. I'm not sure what's the... Has black logged off? Maybe they just or maybe they're just I don't know what's going on. Queen e7. Interesting move. Okay, so maybe rook f6 was a problem. Oh, okay, that's what it was. Okay, so I'm the one who needs to be rethinking things here. Rook f6 was the threat. If rook d7, rook f6, and then the bishop on a6 has to do something, and well, it's going to be lost there. So rook f6 was the big bad threat right there, and I guess rook f6 is always going to be a very, very dangerous move. In fact, right now, rook f6, and maybe there's thoughts of just bringing the rook f6 to b6, maybe just giving up that d pawn again. Even if there is a trade right here of a knight for bishop, even if white gives up that d3 pawn, certainly there's much more active pieces for white. In fact, that rook on f8 is a big dummy. It's just strictly defensive and can't even move. So pivoting on f6, getting to b6, threatening rook b8 type of moves, and maybe even slipping in with the other rook on f6. Certainly this is going to be a very, very difficult position to defend against. The knight now could pick that a5 pawn off past a pawn, and in addition to that, there's forks on c8 possibly coming into play. Knight takes on a5 would have been quite strong. There's also knight c6, or excuse me, knight c5 type of moves maybe. If the black queen goes too far. Now we're gonna have to have rook takes and then rook f6. Or no, okay, I thought I thought the queen was going to maybe just recapture. But now we have the king within checking distance. Rook maybe d6, or excuse me, rook to f2, or maybe e3 in this position. What to do with that? Okay, so the rook is getting ready to play to d2. We have knight checks. The knight could take on a5. The black queen, unfortunately, tied down to defending the rook and pawn on e5. Is there a way to exploit the overloaded nature of that queen on e7? What can be done here? No, I don't want any. I can't accept challenges right now. The black king in check. What to do? Wow, running out of squares. This is a mate. Or no, I was thinking there was some mate with queen f6 and then knight c5, but no, it would just be king takes queen. So knight takes the pawn past a pawn, could be played to c6 at this point, chasing the queen away. That seemed to be a really, really strong move. And there's even possibilities of knight to d8. This is going to be a tough spot right here. There's got to be something very, very good. Knight d8 check comes to mind. What else is there? Knight d8, rook 2. Actually, here it is, rook d5. Rook d5, queen takes knight, and then queen takes e5 would be mate. That would have been lights out. The rook is hung. Queen takes rook is in the air. Oh, that hurts. Ouch, and this isn't mate. The king is actually slipping away. I don't know that this is this has not been calculated. That was just a very, very serious blunder. There was a really lights out type of move with rook d5 earlier. The knight and queen, though, still very, very tricky piece. Knight takes pawn on b4 would fall to queen e1, picking off that knight with the fork. Queen c6, there might be some perpetual queen c5 threatened, winning back that rook. However, the knight on d4 would still be lost. What else is going on? We have a serious time disadvantage, 26 seconds on the white end. So about a half a minute advantage for black. Queen c5 could win the rook. You don't want to go to the back rank. You lose the rook with check. So king b7, definitely best. And I guess queen takes pawn with check. Two connected passed pawns. If these guys can get rolling and still keeping the queen on the board is going to be of great importance. So now cashing in, the queen could actually snip both f7 and g6. So where's the... if the queens are traded, there's actually no hope whatsoever for black. So white should be welcoming any sort of exchange. g2 is something to watch over, and white is just going to have to go into serious blitz mode. The king can be checked and go to h2. Just guard this dark square diagonal, guard against g2, get that h-pawn rolling. King h2, only move. Queen g3. Really just going to have to pick up the pace here. 5.6 seconds. I don't know that white's going to be able to do this here. I think we're just going to have another loss on time, but what more is there really to say? So is it possible for white to actually come back from this? 25 seconds. 22. Queen g3 just to tuck everything in, just to prevent any checks. Queen g3, offer queen exchange, and then you're on the bishop. Avoid the queen oh, I think black could have really just avoided the queen exchange. These guys end up in a draw after all of that. That was certainly a very back and forth game, but I'm going to stop there. I'm not going to kibitz another game, but that was a really interesting position earlier on. That rook d5 move, I think, could have really led to some serious trouble for black. But that's all for this video. As always, I hope you got something out of it. Take care. Bye.